Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. Welcome to today's episode of Wisdom Talk Radio. This is where we explore the depths of conscious living and what it truly means to live an expanded life. Join us to be inspired, moved, transformed, and leave with a sense of joy and possibility. The news cycles today would have us believe that polarization is what's running the show. Yet we know that there is something deeper that we can tune into that really can move us. Well, today we get to explore the potency of our connection with the natural world, whether we feel connected or not, whether we're aware of that connection or not. But how can that help us? And what can we learn and receive from it so that our lives can feel more in tune with the wisdom of the earth and with the rhythms of the earth? Stay with us. I'm Laurie, Seymour, host of Wisdom Talk Radio and CEO and founder of the Baca Institute, home of the Quantum Connection Process. You can go to the Baca Institute to discover your unique connection with the essence of who you are by taking the Quantum Connection quiz. Why quantum connection? We're each designed to connect directly with Source, differently, in our own unique way. And when we get to know that unique connection, we were able to have a deeper sense of that connection for ourselves. And it truly is the secret to creating what you want in your life. You are exactly who is needed. So my guest today is Patrick Hanaway, MD, who is a board-certified family physician. Dr. Hanaway served as president of the American Board of Integrative Holistic Medicine. And for over 25 years, he has worked in clinical practice in Asheville, North Carolina, which is a gorgeous place. And he's sitting out there right now. And earlier, as we were just starting our call today, I said, "What's that kind of whoosh, whoosh, whoosh sound?" And he said, "Oh, well, maybe it's the bird behind me." So, okay. So if you hear any birds or any sounds that you go, "What is that?" We're here all about nature. Patrick, and he'll tell us his name. I'll let him pronounce that. His initiated name was initiated in 2009 as a Mara Kame, an indigenous healer, by the Huichol people of the Sierra Madres in Mexico. He is chairperson of the Blue Deer Center in upstate New York. Patrick holds community fires, leads ceremonies and pilgrimages to sacred sites, and offers traditional healing sessions around the fire. Welcome, Patrick, to Wisdom Talk Radio. I'm really, really excited you're here.
Thank you so much, Laurie. This is great to begin connecting even before we started this. So thank you so much.
We found out we have connections from decades ago in common, and that was really fun to discover. So, okay, so I said this in the beginning that there's so much in our world that wants to focus on polarization, that wants to focus on separation, or even focusing on what's wrong. And we're struggling. So many people feel like they're struggling, like they're yearning for something that makes sense, that helps them with what's going on. And so some people start to have a sensing of, I want to look back. I want to see, what did our ancestors know that we don't, or that we don't maybe remember? And I'd love for you to start to speak to that, to open our conversation.
I think remember is a great word because, we strive for balance, but, we're out of balance and rebalancing, and that's the dynamic movement in life. It's not an endpoint like perfection. There is no perfection. There
Just
is
like
no
there is no real balance, is
there
there?
is no perfect balance. Exactly. And so too in our beings, we forget and we remember. And that's just how we move as human beings. And so we're designed for connecting, being a part of the whole world, every aspect of it, communicating with each other. And we as human beings have been doing that for, some say 20,000, 30,000 years. Some say 300,000 years. Some say 800,000 years. There's different, but for a long, long time. And it's only in the very recent time where we've really become disconnected from nature, not listening to the world as it is, and having an awareness, as in many, most, maybe all indigenous cultures, that we have a relationship with the world and all the beings that are in the world, and everything is alive, and in fact, like, wanting to help us, but we have to reach for it. We have to connect. We have to build a relationship with it.
Mm,
And we've from that in our way of life at this point in time. And yet uncertainty and the unknown is there all the time. We try to protect ourselves from it, but we're not able to. So that's, that's the big view. And then there's, well, how do I begin to connect to that? I mean, I can go for a walk in nature. I can slow down and not believe everything I think. I can be focus on the relationships with other human beings, or my animals, or the plants that are in my house or around me. And so we can begin to deepen that process. And that's sort of how that unfolded for me, an
how so?
awareness of a big view, but then really beginning to feel a relationship to aspects, various beings, various expressions in the world, and then just continuing to deepen that. Oh, and forgetting and remembering.
And forgetting and remembering that. That actually is the theme, a basic theme in the book that I'm in the midst of writing. So interesting that we should frame it in that way. And so
Very good.
in that forgetting and remembering, because there's so much in life that essentially really is distracting, whether it's our assumptions of what we think we have to do, or some demands from the outside world, or people that expect of us and then we expect of ourselves. So when you talk about the energies that are available really to assist us, how do we shift from all that is here to distract us to what is potentially here to support us, to align us, to that we can receive from?
And I might use a different word than energies. Energies, which are, the quantum field and what we've learned through science. And yet, when we start to speak of that which is swirling around us as forces or as spirit, because there is an alive quality to it,
Yeah.
and so like that becomes really important. I'm really working on my my speech right now to stop talking about things, because things are inanimate and everything is alive. My 35-year-old truck that just died, it's like it's a friend that I've had for a long, long time, and it's no longer able to be a part of my life in the way that it was, helping to carry me and carry mulch and tools and wood and all kinds of stuff. So everything, is connected. And to going back to the earlier comment about polarity, I think let's move from that conversation about polarity, where one side is right, the other side is wrong, and move it into the paradox of the interrelationship of yin yang, of up down, of light dark, of hot cold, which are which are connected to each other. They only exist in relationship to the other. They don't have an existence outside of that. and while we focus on the importance of life and the light and the illumination of the sun in our lives and how it changes things, well, the dark is also important.
Hmm.
And sleep in our dream time is important for regenerating. So when we start to think of it more as a paradox or as these interrelated aspects,
Like
then
a
we
both and.
like a both and then as we look at it more fully, we're like, oh wow, it's actually more complex than that.
Mhm.
And the interrelated web of life of all things, it's a lot more complex. Most of it we don't understand and we can't understand, and
Mm.
that's okay.
Yeah. It was somehow the sense of wanting to understand something feels more like an attempt to want to control something.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with the writer Dr. Ian McGilchrist. He wrote a book about 15 years ago called the Master and His Emissary. Talking about the heart-mind connection. But
Hmm.
he's a neuropsychiatrist who's very learned, and his more recent book is called The Matter with Things.
Mm.
And it's how our objectification, our left brain aspect of reducing things more and more and more and objectifying them is a way um, of apprehending something, of
Hmm.
using it as a resource to be able to
Hmm.
control it, versus in the right brain, it's about comprehending. It's about the holistic big view. And they're both necessary, right?
Hmm.
It's not one or the other. But culturally, Western culturally, we've really focused on the apprehending nature of it and the objectification of the world and of nature, sadly, of nature itself.
So I totally agree. And I really appreciate that your way of framing that and of describing that because it's it gives us a way to see where can we give a little more attention. And the work of what you're doing, especially with the Blue Deer Center, is really bringing that forward. Um, it's it's allowing something else to come into the picture.
Yeah, and I just want to frame some people like, "Well, what's that mean? Blue Deer Center. Like I understand all three of those words, but I don't know why they're
Okay,
together.
great.
And so the um, in the view of the Huichol people, or they call themselves Vedadika, the people from the thorny place. They live in the desert and in the Sierra Madres, and it's a harsh environment, but they've been able to live there for thousands and thousands of years and have had the opportunity to become industrialized and westernized, and have said, well, it doesn't seem like a very good idea to us, you know.
You have to
And
give
so
up a
they're
lot to do that.
yeah, yeah. So they're one of a few groups in North America, the Hopi being the other well-known one, that have not been kind of co-opted into Western
Mm.
civilization. So the Vedadika in their story, the blue deer sings the song of the world into existence. And so that is, and it's done through the voice and through sound. And what is that sound? And they find, and the pre-elemental forces and beings and gods come together around that to begin to create form and substance and light and dark, and so that's how the world as we know it in this time comes together. So the
Mhm.
Blue Deer Center was started by my teacher, Don Elias Cowan, who was the one who brought the ideas. He studied with J.R. Worsley and in five element or five phase Chinese medicine, and
Mhm.
but he said, well, can plants do this as well as needles can?
Yeah.
And JR said, yes, of course. And then he said, and local plants are even more important. And so, it's because it's where you live, it's the land where you live. So of
Wow.
course they're there. And what Elliot did was he took that and he said, well, let me begin to journey to the plants and be able to ask them, what medicine do they have for me? Now, when we talk with master herbalists and elders, In indigenous traditions, I mean, they may just have a few plants that they work with, but they have a deep, deep relationship to them in how they can work. It's not about having, 50 or 500 plants in your toolkit, if you will, but it's about having a relationship with the plants that live where you live, that then can be used to be able to help support. And so that's what that's what Eliot brought forth, which again was a form of remembrance. It's not that this thing that he named plant spirit medicine, and we'll distinguish that from plant medicine in just a little bit. But
Please, yes, that's excellent. Yeah.
the plant spirit medicine, it's about connecting to the spirit of the plant and journey, honoring it,
Mm.
connecting, listening, and being in relationship and seeing what is it that you have to offer me so that I can help other people, or it may be to help myself. And we find that the unfolding of this is something that has given many people an opportunity to be able to change the focus of their life, whether it's through more deeply connecting to the spirits and the essence of nature that's there, or
Hmm.
whether it's helping to bring balance, moving toward balance in their life. And for me, that was part of a doorway, where I had been working deeply with Tibetan Buddhism, but felt something that wasn't connecting my heart in the same way. I wasn't connecting to the land
Ah,
and to the beings. And this opened up in front of me this opportunity to learn this tool. And frankly, when I first began to do it, it's a couple of years of training that I went through. And when I first started to do it, I was skeptical. I'm like, this isn't really going to work, you know. And then I would offer it, and then like people would be like, what just happened, And I'm a doctor and a healer. I've done hands-on. I've done herbalism, lots of nutrition, lots of different things. I'm like, wow, this is something here that is beyond what my brain can understand.
yeah.
Um, but it's unequivocal that it's there. And that led me on the journey to become initiated as a traditional shamanic healer. And I'll just say you mentioned, so the name that I was given at that time was U+utemai,
Mm.
which means beautiful new arrow, and
Hmm.
I aspire to be that one day.
And so you are. So Worsley, name from my past, because I studied five element theory with
Hmm.
Jock McKean, an MD,
Hmm.
maybe studied at the same time as you. I don't know. Um, so how, I want to see what the question is. I'm still trying to make the connection between plants and the needles. Help me with that a little.
Well,
The needles being the
yeah, I
acupuncture.
mean, in the way in which, in moving as a healer,
Hmm.
with this tradition, the diagnostic tools are related to pulse taking and to causative factor, and being able to look at, well, where's the primary imbalance. Is it in fire, earth, metal, water, wood. We can talk about the Shen cycle and the Ko cycle and how they interact, and looking at blocks that happen. So we can have, like, let's say we've got a block that's happening in the meridians. We've defined that by the pulses, and we've taken that, and then we have a relationship with the plant that is helping me to work with a specific
Ah,
block. and
okay.
so and so then I bring the essence of that plant into the person,
Hmm.
through drops or through touch. There's some different ways to be able to do that. For myself, I would do it through using some craniosacral um, ways of holding the body, but the intention is with the plant spirit to direct it to exactly where on that meridian it's needed. Or if I'm dealing with possession and internal and external at this point in time. But what we find is that the plant spirits can actually act like the needles can work to be able to help the the flow, the movement
Mm-hmm.
of chi. And chi again, I think is a great word because we translate it as energy, but it's not just energy. It's a force.
It's life
You know,
force.
it's a life force that's there. So the aspect of what we've done, we've created a course. Now our
Mm-hmm.
teacher Elliot, tragically died 2 years ago, and we said, well, we want to help this to continue on. So we created a simple course for people to begin to understand called Growing Awareness of Nature. And so it's online, 12 modules, you know, pretty inexpensive, but you can hear the teachings. You can, there's five of the modules are on fire, earth, metal, water, wood,
Ah.
how to begin to feel that in your life, about how to journey to the underworld, how to journey to the teacher, how to journey to the plants,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to connect to talking about what we might call household shamanism.
Mm-hmm.
Ways of being able to relate and listen to the world around us all the time. And
Yeah.
that's what our focus is. Some people may go through that and say, I want to learn more, I want to deepen, I want to learn the more intricate aspects that I began
Mm-hmm.
to speak about. But that's a way of helping people to remember,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that
I mean,
that's what
that's
our
wonderful
focus
that,
is.
that you've created this course, and it feels like it could be important for so many people, but yet people, what do I want to say? They need to understand how it would support them. And
Yeah,
maybe
and
you could speak to that a little bit.
well, I think there's a number of layers to that,
Mm-hmm.
because there's sort of the initial layer that is just like supporting the aspect of remembering that everything is alive,
Yeah.
and spending time. An exercise would be, you know, walking through an urban area and then sitting down and writing what you're feeling, what's arising in you, and then walking through a park, and then walking through an area that's wild, and just kind of noting what's the difference
Mm-hmm.
in the felt sense of relationship. It's not as though and the way in which nature speaks to us doesn't speak to us in English,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Right.
It
It's the
speaks to
feeling body. Would you say that?
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly, because it's in that relationship. You do that, the deeper the relationship is. And if we have an area, trails on the land where I live and river that runs through it, and if I'm not connected to it on a regular basis, it's like, well, what's it affects the relationship just as it does
Mm-hmm.
with any friendship that occurs. So this is how, it's the beginning. That's the beginning. And then people may say, wow, there's healers who actually use this kind of tool. They can help me. I want to receive this kind of healing, or I'm interested in deepening, to learn more. And what we found over time was that there are people who you know just wanted to learn the first layer of it. And then there's others who wanted to learn more but never planned to become practitioners, and still others who deepened, to move into becoming healers using this as a principal healing tool. I would say for myself, I'd been in medicine, doing lots of hands-on and holistic and integrative
Mm-hmm.
functional medicine aspects. I learned this. It was a very useful and interesting tool for me, for people who I felt weren't having the movement that I would see. If you look at body, mind, and spirit, sometimes the person needs the physical, needs the body aspect that's going
Mm-hmm.
on. Sometimes they need the mental, emotional aspect that to help make the shift, to move back towards balance. And sometimes, they need the spiritual aspect that's going on. So that was how I related to it in my practice. And then that sort of deepened and changed as I became initiated, which is um, related, but not the same path. That
Right.
was
Right.
a separate sort of vision quest that I dreamt into, and went on and said, oh, I guess I have to do this. I don't, I don't really want to, but
Oh, I know that.
um,
I know that feeling so well.
yeah, when one is called,
Mhm.
um, it's important to do what one is asked to do.
It is. It is. It's not just important. It's almost like you don't have a choice.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, your life depends on it.
Hmm.
Your life that you were born to live.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I so value that you were listening, that you were listening and that you followed through.
I laugh because I say I'm not a very good listener. It usually takes me like three strikes in the head, and
Right.
the third strike in the head, I'm like, oh, I should listen to that. And so I'm a little dense.
Yeah, well,
And
I think of a friend of mine who likes to tell the story that he got rear-ended 3 times before and it was actually in relationship to the person who became my teacher before he said, "Oh, I guess I got to go do this." Because we
exactly,
sometimes don't
exactly.
listen. And for those of you in our audience who are reflecting on yourself and saying, "Oh, what have I not been listening to?" It seems to me that the course that you've created can be a beginning place of learning how to listen.
Exactly.
Is that fair to say?
No, it's exactly, we start off by, talking that nature is alive and helping people to begin to have an experience of what does that really mean?
Hmm.
And, we in the course we take people through experiential components as well, and journaling, and being able to do that. And right now it's all being done as a what do they call it, asynchronous, like it's online, you take it,
Hmm. And it's on
everything's
demand, so
available,
you
it's
don't
on
have
demand,
to
you don't have to do
follow some
anything with it,
schedule.
right? And but we're also setting up opportunities for people to have some mentoring and
Wonderful.
some helping to walk through it as well, because some people prefer that, or
Right,
it
right,
helps to
right.
motivate
And
them.
need that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I do want you to speak to, before we get any further, the difference between plant spirit medicine and plant medicine. Because plant medicine, I have many friends, or several friends at least, that work with plant medicine. And
Mhm.
that is a very different thing than what you are doing and what you're up to.
Yeah, it's very different. And so, when humans have, you know, come forth, we have some special gifts that we've been given. We've been given the wisdom traditions. We've been given community. We've been given fire. We've been given specialized emotions of, grief and courage and humor, to be able to help move through life. And some populations, some peoples have also been given special plant medicines that act as doorways for them to be able to go through. But in the cultures that and peoples that I'm familiar with, in the Amazon, in Colombia, in Mexico, who work with various kinds of entheogenic plants, or plant medicines, they're done within the context of the culture, and they're done with and the community itself. They're not done as singular things. And
Ah,
the trigger for me, or the thing that catches my attention when I talk to people who are involved with plant medicine, is they talk about doing ayahuasca. And
right.
it's like, well, that's like, where's the relationship? Where's the
Ah,
connectivity in it, where this plant is giving you something that is a door opening for you to be able to see the world in a different way. But what's then important in the context of the shaman or the healer and the community of people that you may be experiencing this with, it's like, okay, how do I integrate this and bring this back into my life? But people have experiences that are altering their perceptions, and then they go back to their daily life, and it's like, well, this isn't anything like what that experience was. I kind of like that experience rather than my daily life, and so I'm going to go do that again. Or communities that are arising around that, and it's like, well, that's just one small aspect. And my teachers have said, like, you cannot expect the plants to do the heavy lifting. Like, you have to do your work,
ooh,
and the plant can be a doorway.
Mm-hmm.
In the Southwest, we might call that a sipapu in the kiva. In the Wixarika, they talk about it as a nerika, an opening to the world of the gods to be able to connect. And there's no doubt that plant medicines can be helpful in that way for people. But they're used less than annually, sometimes only once in a lifetime, so that you have
Mm-hmm.
an understanding of what's going on. And so from my perspective, it needs to be done in honoring and in relationship to the plant. And that's a different way than most people that I'm aware of
Mm-hmm.
are doing this.
And it
So
sounds
I,
like in a moment by moment kind of relationship. Again, it's the relationship that a word you've used a few times that feels singular in this, that feels so important.
Yeah. And I have a concern, that this is becoming, the 2020s version of Mother's Little Helper.
Mm-hmm.
It's like and we're using it to remove ourselves from our lives rather than integrate into our
Mm-hmm.
lives. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not true for everybody. And then there's a whole other set of things that are around um, medicine assisted psychotherapy, where people are using, I heard the FDA is looking to approve MDMA for post traumatic stress. And, and there's colleagues, including my really close friend Scott Shannon in Fort Collins, who's been working with research around these things in a medical setting.
Mm-hmm.
But in the medical setting, the key part is the setting,
Mm-hmm.
and holding the space for listening to people and allow them in that medicalized setting to be able to move through it. So like there's something there, no doubt about it. But I think we have to be very, as you said, right relationship
Mm-hmm.
with the plant people around doing this. So,
Yes.
and then plant spirit medicine is really more of a form of, as I said, household shamanism, where you can go, you learn how to do this, you develop a relationship, you connect, you make an offering, and you journey to the spirit of the plant. What do you have to offer that will be of benefit to me, so that I can be of benefit to other people?
Ah,
That's a very different kind of
it's a
relationship.
very different, it really is a shift in mentality, from taking in a way to truly receiving and it being an aspect of circulation.
Exactly. Well said.
It feels like this is really important for not only for today's world, but I'm thinking about the youth in today's world who are feeling so disconnected. And I'm wondering how the Blue Deer Center is perhaps reaching out to the younger, yeah, the younger folk.
It's a great point, and what we're finding, kind of surprisingly, is that it's the people who are in the age of 20 to 35 who are the most interested in the course that we're offering, and we did not expect that. So we're having to reach out through different kinds of platforms in order to be able to connect with them through Instagram and other kinds of things, which is actually, it's super paradoxical, right? So we talked about paradox earlier. The paradox of, like, we're talking with people and we're giving them tools to be able to connect with the natural world, and they're learning about it through TikTok and Instagram, or Facebook and social media sites, and it's being done on demand, digitally, virtually, but the whole goal is about how do we, we're just wanting to create a big opportunity for people
Yeah.
all over the world to be able to connect with this and then begin to incorporate it into their lives.
And I'm grateful too because first of all, there'll be the link for the course itself will be in the show notes, and also I understand that you've also are offering our listeners a discount for the
Yeah.
course, which is
Hmm.
a lovely gift, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Oh, you bet. You bet.
What's the best way for people to discover more about what you're doing and where and etc. And the course itself.
Yeah. Well, my work now is mostly, I've done a lot of different things in the integrative medicine space, but my work is primarily now through Blue Deer,
Mhm.
and as we call it, the center there in the Catskills. It's 100 acres. It's a sacred place. It was recognized by the Haudenosaunee people, by the Mohawk and Oneida people as a place for conflict resolution, for how they could work their stuff out together. There was longhouse there for quite some time, and people will still come visit that particular sacred place. On the was the name of the native name is Susquehanna. The Dutch name is the Plattekill River. Um, and so we have offerings where we go to um, the headwaters and we make offerings in the spring and fall. We have various harvest festivals. We host different retreats that are happening there. We just had a healing intensive that was there that is around helping people to deeply connect to the divine expressions that are around them all the time.
Mm.
So when we talk about fire and the sun. We talk about Mother Earth and grandmother growth. We talk about the healing waters that move through and the winds that carry the weather beings with us. And we talk about the ancestors, and how do we begin to feel that in our lives and reach to them and ask for help, ask for the support that we need.
Hmm.
And that if I could digress for just a moment,
Oh.
for me, the remembering and forgetting that we started with, as I've been going down through this path and working with it and deepening, and I was at a point where I kind of got distracted from doing some work in medicine at the Cleveland Clinic, and received a lot of honors, but I wasn't going down the path that I was meant to go down, and
Hmm.
I got stage 4 cancer. And it was like, oh, and it happened just as I was ready to go on pilgrimage. And it's like, and on pilgrimage, I was like, oh, you have to ask for help. You have to not do it yourself. You have to be open to receive. It's there. You have to be open to it. And I did. And part of what happened in that journey while I'm getting radiation and chemotherapy and not feeling like I want to move was I began to just spend time outside in nature. And it was in the winter time and be raining and cold, but I just had to be outside. And and what I found was my whole relationship to the world around me changed. And so again, it's like, okay, so that's remembering,
Yes.
and I dare say that a year later I found myself, the cancer is gone and has been, but I found myself again like, oh, you're doing it again,
You
you
forgot
forgot
again,
again.
right?
And it's like, how could I go through that and forget again? But it's like, oh, I'm human, so here
Exactly.
we go.
Exactly.
It's part of the nature of who we are.
Hmm.
And so at Blue Deer, that's what we're doing. We're trying to give opportunities through retreats and being on the land in the sacred place to
Mm.
help people to remember. So bluedeer.org is the website, and you can learn about the work that we're doing there.
Great.
And then there's also plantspiritmedicine.org, where and there's links between the two, but you can connect specifically to the course itself.
Great. But it's good to not be able to have both places because there's lots going on that you're involved with and that you're
Yeah,
bringing into the world.
yeah,
So,
it's quite fortunate. I feel blessed in that, and I'm also at times just stunned by the hubris that I've had of thinking that I know. You know,
mm, that's part of forgetting and remembering too.
exactly.
When I think I know, I'll just speak for me. When I think, oh yeah, I've got that. I know. In the very next moment, I feel like either that's taken away in the moment, or it's just like something comes along and reminds me, sometimes dramatically, sometimes more subtly, um, no, you don't. Because I'm opened into something new that, all I can say is, I don't know who I am right now. I don't even know, I don't know what I'm drawn to. I don't know what's next because I'm in that place of the void. And that's
Yeah.
it's come to feel like a very wonderful place to be because I know it's bringing me into what's next.
And the part that's hard for people to understand, but that I keep trying to say, maybe I'll find better words, is like it's in that place of the unknown, of
Mhm.
the uncertainty, where life is most alive.
Yes.
Every everything can happen in that place. Everything. That old, Zen koan of the master who keeps pouring the water into the teacup, and the full cup cannot receive anything. So it's like this is known and recognized, by all the traditions over time. But our Western culture, thinks that, well, like if I have the internet and I have an iPhone, I pretty much know everything. It's like, well, actually, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
You just have a false perception about that.
And that can be humbling or it can be the most exciting thing in the world.
Or
And I
both.
prefer to go for that. Or
Or
both,
both.
or both. Absolutely. I guess I could have said it this way. It's always humbling, but it can be terrifying. And it doesn't have to be. And maybe that's a good place for us to close our time together today.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I feel like you've brought something needed to Wisdom Talk Radio, to our audience, to what's possible.
Well, you're creating the container for all of this to happen. So thank you so much.
You are welcome. And I'd love to thank our audience too. Thank you for being with us today at Wisdom Talk Radio because without you, why would we be doing this? So do join us here regularly for more wisdom, discovery, and illumination. And please share it. Share it with your friends, your colleagues, your family. Leave us a review because when you do that, that helps more people, discover this and discover this kind of wisdom, this kind of illumination. And if you want to find out more about your own quantum connection style, remember you can go to the Baca Institute and take the quiz today. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.